It's time for another episode of Tucson Means Business, featuring Tucson's top entrepreneurs and leaders in the business world. And now your host, Mark Bishop.
And yes, how exciting once again for another Tucson Means Business with Mark Bishop. Welcome. I've got four lovely ladies in the studio with me today, four professional business people. And as the show depicts, you know, Tucson does mean business, and we have businesses from all walks of life. And believe me, these ladies are hard workers and have built successful businesses or managed successful businesses, so they know what it's about. Introducing them firstly, I have Michelle Manhay. Michelle is the branch manager for First Credit Union. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, it's lovely to have you. Then I have Susan Penny. You remember Money Penny out of the Bond movies? Yeah, this is Susan Penny. Hello, Susan.
Hello, how you doing?
Susan is the owner of the Community Voice AZ LLC, which is DBA for the Oro Valley Community Publication. And Oro Valley Voice, very popular and successful rag, as we call them, here in Tucson. And along with the Tucson Smart Shopper LLC, which is even smarter again. Welcome, Susan. It's nice to have you. Thank you for giving up your time. That's wonderful. Catherine Barron, hello.
Hello, Mark.
How are you?
I am well.
All righty. Catherine Barron, well, what does she do? She's the president, owner, chief cook and bottle washer, you name it, as she says. God love her. She is Barron Ventures, Inc., and that is DBA Catherine's Estates and Appraisals, the most successful estate appraiser here in Tucson. And also, oh, look, what a background. What did we get to her? But last but not least, this lovely young lady here on my right is Suzanne McNamara.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Hello, Suzanne. Nice to see you again. A brand new business owner of a very interesting and unique spa. It's called the Fuchsia Spa. It's up at the la-di-da end of town at La Encantada. That's why they call it that, I think. But the prices, I don't know how she does it. So she's here to tell us, how do you make, in a very, very, select area, a very successful business start from zip and do what she can actually do. So I hope you'll get something out of today. And if you're an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur and you're going into business, you want to learn from these ladies, I can assure you. And I'm going to start firstly with you, Michelle. You're on the box seat. All right. 19 years ago is when you began your career as a full-time teller, yes?
Yes.
Now you're the branch manager of one of Tucson's most successful financial institutions. It's the First Credit Union. So miracles do happen, don't they?
They do. They do.
It took some time, though, from a teller to a member service representative, and then 8 years of good, hard service, loyalty, you were promoted to branch manager.
Yes.
How did you feel about that?
I aspired from the moment I started to end up in a management position. So.
Well, was that your goal?
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah?
Yeah.
May I ask, at what age did you actually start in the bank? Well, the credit union, I beg your pardon.
I was 19 years old.
That's a nice age, and yet you knew then where you wanted to go?
Yeah, I did. From the moment I opened my account at the credit union, I was like, I'm going to work here.
Never mind, manage the place, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. Good on you. Well done. I mean, we're going to learn all about that game and how you work your way up. But credit unions, they're owned by their membership nationally, with the CU motto being people helping people.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Does your team, I mean, you are manager, but does your team live by that motto, Michelle?
They do. I feel very fortunate to have a staff of like-minded individuals that love getting involved in their community in any way they can help.
Well, that's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think this is what people are learning more and more and more. I mean, your industry is very competitive now. I mean, when I grew up, all we had was banks.
Yeah.
And they ruled everything, right? Then it became credit unions, or in Australia we call them building societies as well. Credit unions and building societies. But there we go from there. Now, the culture and values of the credit union must have gotten you... must have gotten to you, really. You think about it, as a volunteer secretary for the Southern Arizona chapter of the Mountain West Credit Union Association. Does this further, does it help dedication to your work, a place of mission? What does it help you to do?
It does. Through the association, it helps me collaborate with, other like-minded leaders in the credit union industry from various credit unions in our local area. And, together we train and we further help our community by volunteering our time and different things.
Getting out there. So does that include weekends and public holidays?
It can, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean,
depending on the event we attend.
That's excellent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because normally you guys, I mean, you never used to be open. Every time I arrived, there was a sign on the down window. Closed at 3. And I think, whoa, I want to work in a bank or a credit union. Never there, you know. The cultures we talked about, when you're not working or volunteering, personal life, what do you enjoy doing?
Honestly, I love spending a lot of my time with my family. I enjoy a good Netflix binge. I garden. I recently took to refurbishing old furniture.
And what else do you do?
Okay. I have
Or is that enough?
furniture for you.
So was your dad a carpenter or a builder by any chance? I mean, where did that come from?
You know, my dad is in the line of construction, so
okay.
he helps me a lot.
So there you go, because there's usually always a connection somewhere, you know, when that goes on. Susan, you don't do furniture, do you?
Actually, I do.
You do? Another one, Susan
paint.
Penny?
Mm-hmm.
Heavens above, I tell you what, you are smart. It took me hours to prepare your stuff. I mean, what you've done is more than I did. My big guest on this episode, the entrepreneur and her genetics, from pages of things done, I'll give her this. She worked in the family restaurant at age 7, helped her grandmother bake pies for area restaurants as well. And I'd like to welcome Susan Penny again.
Thank you.
A gutsy young lady that put herself through high school with an unusual painting ritual.
Yeah, it was back in the late 60s, and so I would paint anything on person's blue jeans they wanted for $5.
All right.
So, and you know, they did the Uncle Sam, the flags. I mean, you know, I did quite a few unusual paintings for people, but
On the back of jeans?
jeans. I even did like a snake up a jean leg, you know, wrapped around the jean leg with a
Alrighty.
apple in it. I mean,
Do you still have any of those?
no, I don't have anything. I mean, I have some paintings, but I don't have any of them. Clothes, but
7 years of age, that must have been an interesting upbringing for you in a restaurant. I mean, people, conversations.
yeah, you know, it was a very small town, a farm town, so most everybody that came in were farmers.
Mm-hmm.
And all we made was hamburgers and milkshakes. And it was my job at that early age. I'd run across the street to the grocery store and get fresh ground hamburger every hour, and then I had to make the hamburger patties.
Well,
all individual, and you smash them down in a
yeah,
thing.
it would have been fun. And you think back in your years, you know. Now, look, you did marry young. You started at a horseshoeing business. This was the first thing, really. Well, you know, making the cakes
Yeah.
and the pies and all that was really your first thing. But this was the first one you had on your own. Then your hubby, but a horseshoeing business in the winter. But is that a good time to be shoeing horses?
Not in Ohio, no. The phone wasn't ringing off the hook, and my husband said, well, I don't know what to do, you know. And I said, oh, well, drive around the country, and when you see a horse, get out and give him your card. And when the spring, you know, the snow left and the spring came, he just got lots and lots of calls. So that was my first experience at marketing.
What a good idea, running around dropping cards to do horseshoeing. Yeah, you're only 20, then you determined, though, to get ahead, and you decided to move to Missouri and started the horseshoeing business again, plus a horseshoeing school at that time. Is that right?
That's right. We used to go on big trail rides, and I'd go out and ride the horse and bring everybody over to our booth to have their horse shoed. And while we were there, a lot of people, of course, my husband went to horseshoeing school. I saw that was a pretty lucrative business. That was in Oklahoma. So people there, at these 2,000 people riding their horses, so we would invite them to our ranch, and then they'd take a 2-week horseshoe school. Mm-hmm. And we got like $2,000. And anyways, that's how we started that.
Pretty cool. But you also found something else, I believe, in these wonderful barns at people's places. What did you find in there?
Well, because my husband went around to all these barns, they were just loaded with antiques. So I sort of started getting an antique business.
Oh, no.
And they had a lot of auctions, which I loved the auctions. I went to my first auction with my dad, probably about 7. And I'm just crazy about auctions.
Catherine, did you get good antiques out of barns too?
I have.
Yeah,
The
must
trash.
be. Well, what a place.
All places, yes.
Well, you know what they say, one man's trash is another treasure, right? So I thought I had a tested business training background myself, Susan Penny, until I did your stuff and did research. I tell you, boy, wow. Anyway, you have done a marvelous thing. Tell us about the the restaurant caper, the 50s, 60s themed nightclubs, when you actually went to St. Louis area, I think it was. Then you moved to that with hubby.
Well, we lived down on the ranch in Missouri, and then he started shoeing at the racetrack, which was in Illinois, right next to St. Louis. So I started working downtown St. Louis, and I went to work for a company that bought up distressed hotels, and they turned the bar into 50s, 60s nightclub. Well, being a 50s, 60s girl, that was fun. Got to wear the old formals and the gloves, and my friend, we did all the hiring, we trained all the people, and they'd open these all up over the country, so we got to travel a lot, and it was really fun.
Wow.
They had Corvettes in it. They were always called Corvettes, so it was I didn't even call that working. It was just kind of fun.
Corvettes. I could say something, but I better not. Catherine Barron.
Yes.
She's the lady. Is that the Catherine Barron I saw on? Yes, you did. You saw her on the Antique Roadshow. Aha. She's been appraising antiques and personal property since '95 for museums and private clients. She's a native of Tucson. Catherine has lived all over the country, though, and abroad. And she earned a BA in biology at the University of Kansas, and Canvas. See, painting on the brain now. And an MA in art history at the University of Memphis, Tennessee. I'll be back. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you, Mark.
Nice to have you again. You were the curator for the historic properties of the Memphis Museum System.
Yes, anything moldy, old, that smelled bad, I was in charge of, and I would make exhibits and teach curation and education.
Wow. Was that really when you started, learning about this world, the appraisals of antiques, art, and personal property?
I've been fascinated with antiques and the history behind them all my life. As a kid, my grandmother had a big house in Missouri, and we would go there, and I'd kind of play in the attic and pull things out and say, Grandma, could I have this plate? And usually Grandma would give me the plate, and I just loved it. And in college, I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, so I'd always go to the estate sales and the antique markets to go find a chair,
Interesting.
furniture.
Yeah, okay. And, did you have any inkling at all at school or at college that this might be a way you'd go?
Well, I took the educationally scenic route, obviously, with the undergraduate in biology, and then the art history master's. And I remember my professor in art history says, you haven't even taken an art history class. But I liked how science and art interpret and analyze facts and things that you see.
Okay.
And in that way, art is an expression of who we are. And that is a real quantifiable commodity. And that's why I can do so well in appraisals.
Yeah, very good. Well, I'm looking forward to learning a lot more today from you. What brought you back to Tucson back in 2001?
Oh, I love Tucson. I grew up here, and so I am officially a retread. I lived all over, and every place I would live in, I'd think, is this better than Tucson? No. Germany was a close second.
Really?
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Interesting.
Würzburg.
Yeah. Was es Laos?
Oh, ja, es ist schön.
Yeah. You have been published as a writer on art, antiques, and ancient coinage.
Yes.
In selected museum and art publications, and you've served as an editor for other authors' works as well. Tell us a little bit about those papers or magazines. I mean, are they national? Are they international?
They're mostly local to the trade. I did a lot of articles for the Memphis Museum System and for the Arizona Historical Society. My thesis was on ancient Roman coinage. So I had collaborated with my professor and another school chum to do some publications in some magazines there.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting coinage, eh? I guess my limited experience or knowledge is that I understand that some coins are worth a fortune.
Yes.
If you're lucky enough to find them in a barn or somewhere, right? And you've protected them and looked after them?
Yes, it's all a condition of grading coinage and then the scarcity and then, of course, how much was minted in a particular year.
Right.
Carson City Morgan dollars, which were part of the later Colorado mining from the Comstock lode, the silver lode that was discovered. Those are scarcer and more rare and more valuable than Carson City or Morgan dollars that were minted in, say, New Orleans.
Okay. What about coins that have presidents on them or famous people? Do they do as well? Or?
Oh, it depends. the Kennedy half dollar is worth more, and the 1963 one is worth more than the 1964, 65, 66 editions.
Interesting. And why would that be the case?
Because that was the year he was assassinated.
What? Of course, I didn't think of
Yeah.
that. There's the connection. Yeah, I remember that day, exactly where I was at that time. I think everybody does.
Yes, I do.
It's unbelievable the impact that man had on us. In 2004, you founded Barron Ventures, Inc.,
Yes.
which is the DBA for Catherine's Estates and Appraisals here in Tucson. What does a business like yours specialize in?
It's based on the client's needs, but generally what I have been doing more of late is appraisal services and giving a fair market value or a replacement value or a damage and loss value for anything. And that is an important thing because when times are good, people want a value for their art. When times are bad, they need to know a value for their art to figure out what pieces to sell, maybe.
Right.
Damage and loss is always a constant, you know. I've got the moving companies on my speed dial.
So if there was a fire or a flood, are you called in before the insurance will pay?
Yes, after the Mount Lemmon fires in 2004, I did a
Right.
lot of appraisal work for houses that had burned up based on photographs. And I go,
Wow.
well, this was our cabinet here, and it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yes.
Australia's had some massive fires, and out of Melbourne we had a bad one a few years back that wiped the whole town out. And a good friend of mine, he was in a major news anchor. He was killed in that fire.
Oh, no.
But I was there covering it, and I'll never forget the people, the tears, everything. All it is ashes. All your life, all your memories. You know, you can always get other stuff. But that's the stuff you can't replace, isn't it?
That is.
How do you
Sentiment.
value something?
Sentiment is a valid but very difficult to value commodity. Bankers, trusts, lawyers, they just want to know, credit unions, they just want to know, you know, a fair market value and a price. But, you know, some little kid, one time we were doing a public appraisal thing, and this 7-year-old boy brought in this moldery old teddy bear. And it was like, you know, we talked about it. We talked about the brand, the styling, the tradition of teddy bears. And I said, you know, this is not an expensive item, but this item is priceless.
There you go. I guess most of people listening to this episode would remember you, Catherine, from the Antique Roadshow, the television program. It's still on, isn't it? It's still
Yes, it is.
successful, which you appeared on as an expert appraiser. Just quickly, what was that experience like for you?
Oh, it was really fun. It was kind of a theater in the round. The cameras and the film was all in the center, and you had different stations that you would go to. I was silver, which was next to glass, which was next to ceramics and pottery. And people would come in, they'd get 2 tickets, and they would come to you, and they'd have a fabulous piece of silver, and you'd say, well, tell me about this. And then they would say, well, I don't know very much about it. And then, would you like to be filmed with it? Then we would run around. They'd go to the green room and get their makeup put on and get sandwiches while we'd be running around with this silver cup and saying, okay, what do you think? Going to the library, going on the computer. And then you'd tape it. They'd edit it afterwards. And then you'd see yourself on TV.
So that was a part of it, okay. But aren't they really there to get as much as they can for that lovely bit of silver?
Sometimes they want to sell it, but we're not allowed to do that. So
Right, but so they're getting a darn good idea of what they could get for it.
Right. I think, what was it, in 2001 or so, there was a Navajo Chief's blanket that was appraised for $400,000 on the roadshow.
Oh, an original, huh?
Yes.
Gee, how do you keep that so well after all these years?
I don't know. They had it draped on the back of their sofa.
Heavens above. Wow. Well, there you go. So that must have been exciting. Now, I just want to ask you one thing before we move on to Suzanne. What is the Board of Friends of Western Art Association all about?
Oh, it's a nonprofit, Friends of Western Art. It was established in the 1980s. And basically, we want to promote the diversity and the growth of Western art as a specific genre.
Southwestern Art?
Southwestern art, yes.
Okay.
So it's more than just the cowboys and Indians things.
Sure.
You have to have a feel for the contemporary. Usually it's naturalistic and realistic work, but not always. One of my favorite paintings that's in the Mountain Oyster Permanent Collection shows a a cowboy in a rain slicker on a horse driving a herd of cattle through a busy downtown intersection and waiting for the little stoplight. that's Western art. Anything that makes you talk about art.
That's different. It'll certainly make you look. Well, that's not the only board that you've served on either, is it?
No, I've been on the Better Business Bureau. I'm currently on a women's professional group, Tiempo, and yes.
Quite a bit. Busy young lady. So your hobbies, apart from travel, which are obviously writing and antiques, what
writing
else
is
do you
good.
like?
I love to travel to see my 2 kids in Seattle. I do love to just enjoy people's company. So
And life. I guess you'd have to be in your line of work.
that's right. And cooking is good too.
You would do that. Oh, interesting, Catherine Barron. After a long career as an executive in the aerospace and defense business, and being a mom, my next guest on the show recognizes the dedication, time, and endurance it takes to be successful, both at home and working in a competitive industry. How long did it really take you to wake up, as they say, Suzanne?
Well, I was at Raytheon for 28 years, believe it or not, and I love Tucson too. I got the opportunity to move to Washington, D.C. as part of Raytheon, and I worked in Texas as part of Raytheon. And then I got recruited to go to Boeing, and they took me to the Pacific Northwest. And I couldn't wait to come back to Tucson. And so I left Boeing to come back here, and I decided that I was sort of finished with defense. And
well, 28 years in defense, right?
plus 3 at Boeing. So,
Plus 3 at Boeing.
yeah,
Now,
so
what were your
31.
positions there? What were your positions?
I started out as an engineer. I was programming software and designing factories, and then led me into doing proposal work for new business, which gradually led me to do strategy, and became the vice president of business development and strategy at a subsidiary of Boeing. And then when I left Boeing, I came back here to start the business in wellness.
In wellness. Well, after corporate for those years, maybe you do. A 30-year
Right.
career in defense work. I mean, can you tell me what you did at Raytheon, or are you going to have to shoot me?
Oh, no. Well, for the most part, I helped win new business, working in proposals and developing new ideas, working with engineers and figuring out how we would sell those ideas or market them. And then graduated to actually be part of the team that went out and solicited business from the different military services. So I know a lot about the Pentagon and how
How it works,
how it works, and how to maneuver.
There you go.
Some other offices that are outside the Pentagon that actually control the acquisition for defense.
I don't mean this to sound sexist or anything, but are there many female engineers?
It's growing. There's a lot of STEM kinds of initiatives. Raytheon was real big about promoting that science and technology for and math for women.
Interesting.
And I think it is growing. I've got 2 nieces that are engineers now.
Wow.
So it's very exciting.
Look out,
about
women.
that.
Here we go.
Yeah.
And why not? Hey, Catherine?
Yes.
Brains. The women have the brains and the tenacity, don't they?
We have the money, too.
And you have the money, too. I bet you're an animal lover.
I am.
Yeah.
I have 4 dogs. And
4?
I had horses when I was in Oregon, and then I had a horse before when I was in Tucson, which
Lovely.
I get to ride anytime I want to. So that's
They're not
nice.
cheap, you know,
The horses, no, they're not.
to run and what have you. That's why you had darn good jobs, huh? Fair enough. Now, your husband, okay. What's his name again?
Chris.
Chris.
Yes.
Does he like Christopher or Chris?
Chris, usually.
Chris. Hi, Chris. He's a former U.S. Navy captain.
He is.
He's retired now, though.
Right. He
So-
left the Navy to work for a defense consulting company, and then when we met, he moved to Tucson. He loves Tucson.
Yeah.
So he quit that.
Well, who doesn't? Tell me. Everybody seems to come back to it. It's like a magnet, isn't it?
It is. I mean, you go someplace else, you don't really appreciate. I think
No,
sometimes
you come back again. Everybody does that when all around the world. It doesn't matter whatever.
Yes,
I think it's
I
the
love
mountains and the sunsets and all this. Now, but does he teach? Oh, Mark, you're a naughty boy. I never turned my phone off. Excuse me. Doesn't he teach at San Miguel High School?
He does. He went on his own and went through classes online and got his teaching certificate and degree, and teaches high school at San Miguel, which he loves. It's
Yeah.
a great
It's nice to do something you love, isn't it?
organization, and
Huh?
he's very happy.
Now, let's talk about a hardworking business owner that you are. Your personal experience at Fuchsia. Fuchsia. Fuchsia, but that's not the only way it's spelled.
Right. Spelled like the flower.
Like the flower. Okay. You say it's provided you the understanding that each of us need and deserve a break from our busy life to take time to relax and to do something that makes us feel beautiful.
Right.
And that technically is how you got into the spa business. Is that right?
Well, when I left Boeing, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to start my own business. I didn't really know what business, and I had discovered this business in Phoenix that was doing really well, and it was all about taking care of wellness for women, particularly those that work really hard, making it affordable, making it a way that it would attract them to come more frequently, to take the time to care for their skin, care for their bodies, care for their nails and other things that we do there. And so I really believed in the concept, and I thought there's a lot of hardworking women in Tucson. I think they would love this idea.
I mean, it's not a coffee shop, thank God, when you started that. But to go from as an engineer, you know what I mean? I mean, how am I trying to express this? One sees metal and steel and hard, heavy stuff and all this jazz, and you're in a lovely pampering world.
I know. It's so nice.
Isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. Right. I wish I had time to do it more myself. All my friends come, and they have beautiful skin, beautiful nails, and I'm sitting there at the front desk sometimes just greeting people saying, oh, I need to take care of better. I need to take time to enjoy my own place.
But that didn't just start with you saying, look, I want to do a spa.
No.
You fell into some place, I think, didn't you? You saw it being operated?
Yes, I did. There are 4 in Phoenix, and we're the first to come to Tucson. I bought the rights into Tucson. So my goal was to make it successful at La Encantada, and then perhaps build 2 more if it really takes
all right.
off.
So where was this, Phoenix?
Yes.
So you saw it operate in Phoenix, went in yourself and had treatments and so on.
Right.
Love the setup.
I did.
Love the design, how they did it inside and so on. But what was the biggest thing that took your interest about it all? Because, I mean, there's tons of spas.
There is.
Right.
Well, this is, I think in this case, for me, it was making it affordable. So that, in the past, I could go to maybe a Red Door spa or a fancy place maybe once every 4 or 5 years, and I loved it. And so I thought, well, at this place, you can come every month and you can spend the same amount, almost, if we do it right. And we have...
They're usually very expensive, aren't they?
They are. And we try to make it affordable. And especially if you come every month, you can join our membership, which is really great.
So it was built out from scratch, as I'm to understand, right, at La Encantada?
It was.
Okay, so it's not just a walk-in, done type thing. And you did the design.
Well, yeah, we used some of the concepts, some of the colors from the Phoenix operations. But, we decorated it the way we liked, that we wanted it to be, and to make it a little bit more upscale and fancy, but not fancy like where you have showers and other things that make it more expensive. So we don't have showers. Some people would like us to have that, but it just increases the price to do that. This is kind of for busy women who are,
Well, I was going to ask you what you meant by that. I mean, it's not just a matter of opening a spa then. You had direct marketing intentions, right?
In and out, kind of.
In and out.
You get your skincare needs, and you're busy. You've got, children or, other things that you're trying to take care of with your work and trying to squeeze in your appointments so we can get you in and get you out and still take care of your basic needs for massage, facials, and nails. And
Interesting concept. Interesting concept, because, again, it comes back to people don't have the time.
Right.
Something a little bit of luxury
and
for
women
yourself.
don't tend to spend money on themselves either.
They
they're
don't?
much more givers, I think. They're buying gifts for people. They don't take the time. They've got kids. They've got families. And they're doing things for other people a lot. And do they take care of themselves, or they say, oh, I don't want to spend that much money on myself.
Wow.
And so if we could make it so that they enjoy it and they see the benefit of really, sort of rejuvenizing themselves once a month. That's my 1 hour of the month.
That's my time.
That I can do something really nice for myself. I think it makes a difference.
So
in
beauty
people's
doesn't
lives.
have to come at a high price then.
Well, that's what we're
Well,
trying
it puts
to
down
promote,
to it.
yes.
I have to be honest here. I've been to the Tucson's newest spa, Fuchsia, and I admit it's beautifully designed, laid out in pleasure. I was surprised at the skincare range. It's high end, but it's not too expensive. I mean, it's fair prices.
Right.
You also offer high quality skincare services. Right. Do guys get facials too, as well as the ladies? Yeah.
They do. My brother still talks about his, and he calls me once a month to reorder his new. He lives in Michigan, so yeah, I think they really do, and they don't really realize how much, if you're out in the sun a lot and how much you need
right.
for the rejuvenation of your skin.
Yeah, the southwestern sun damage, eh? I mean, did you ever see the movie? I've got a mental block. I'll come back to it.
Okay.
He Never Got Old.
Oh.
It was a painting, a portrait.
Oh, portrait of Dorian Gray.
Dorian Gray, that's the one. Yeah, that reminds me, yes. So, Suzanne, if I was to ask you, as this determined businesswoman that you are, what would be your goal now for Fuchsia?
Well, it's new. It's a new business, Mark. New in town. We opened in November of last year, so not even a year old. And my goal is to make it profitable. We're not. Obviously, we need more clients to keep the prices the way we are, have them structured. And we're doing great. I think particularly Mother's Day and Christmas were very good to us.
Right. Yep.
But June came and people leave and
Well,
the
Tucson.
snowbirds leave and some of the walking traffic left. So I'm struggling, as a new business owner, just trying to understand that. And
I'll check it out. I'll check it out.
I hope so.
And everything else you go out for, but a lot of people there. I think we've got 400,000, 500,000 in Tucson in the summer months, and we swell to 1 million or something when everybody comes back, what we affectionately call snowbirds. Isn't that right, Michelle?
That's right.
And snowbirds are what, Susan? What are snowbirds?
Well, snowbird is somebody that comes and lives here for the winter because they're usually coming from a cold place.
A real cold place. I hear some unbelievable stories.
And with the Oro Valley Voice, of course, I'm covering 3 areas up there that have mostly snowbirds, so I'm pretty familiar with the stats on that.
Right.
But a business can, their business can fluctuate, 10 to 15% when the snowbirds aren't here. So it really impacts our community a lot and business people. And
it's different for a lot of places. I think one would have to budget for that for the year. Did a lot more planning. Yeah. When do you get to go away? If anybody in business, when do you go away, Suzanne? If you ever, I guess summertime's really it for you too.
Yeah, it's owning your own business is almost 24/7.
You never get away.
Yeah, it's hard to get away.
You're not entitled
August
to get away.
Is a little slow, but I love having estate sales during the winter season when the snowbirds are back.
Yeah. Right, because there are people from. Just help me out because I've hardly been anywhere in America. I've been in New York on the East Coast. That's about it. But when I think of Michigan, the Midwest, I think of Canada. I think of way up there in blue sky country and, all those northern states that get, 10, 12 feet of snow, freezing minus whatever.
Yeah, minus 10.
And the wind chill and all this jazz. I'd get out of there too, quite frankly. Wouldn't you, Catherine? Wouldn't you, Michelle?
I would.
And I'd go somewhere sunny because I guess on the East Coast, everybody leaves New York to go to Miami, right?
Right.
It's too far to come over here, mate.
Pretty much the other side of the Mississippi, they go to Florida.
Okay,
Everybody on this
to Florida,
side comes
right.
to here.
And everybody else comes down to here.
A lot of Chicago comes here, though.
A lot of Chicago. I've met a lot of Chicagoans here. I have indeed. And it's not Tucsonians, it's Tucsonans. Did you know that, Michelle?
Tucsonans, yeah.
Yes, I had to learn that one the hard way, I can tell you. Fuchsia Spa, it's located at Laring Cantata on the first level, and it's across from Crate and Barrel, next door to Ann Taylor and Clark's Shoes. I've been there, and it is easy to find if you park well. That's a lovely complex, the whole La Cantata thing up there. Did you have any trouble with people finding you initially? Or?
Sometimes, yeah, because we're sort of downstairs and they park upstairs on the far end where the restaurants are sometimes, and so we try to tell them to park behind us. Talbot's used to be. The Talbot's just moved out. I've heard they're going over to Casa Adobe's in the fall, but they're doing a lot of construction, putting something else big in there. It looks like so.
Fantastic. I don't know. Oops. Oh, here we go. I don't know if you guys play golf at all, any of you?
Yes.
Oh, you do? Yeah, okay, me too. I'm a member of the 49ers Golf and Country Club. Lovely place. This has a history, this particular, and they're our sponsors for Tucson Means Business. Wonderful sponsors. They've sponsored me for over, 4 or 5 years now here in Tucson on my radio shows and also here with Business Radio X. And they've got beautiful new buildings out there now. The Rincon Grill has a brand new, lovely lady who is the executive chef, but also now she's just been promoted to the total chief cook and bottle washer, I can assure you. You know, the whole food and wines and runs wine nights and so on. That's Macca McKenzie, and food and beverage manager as well. And they also have a full gym out there for ladies to go to. And you know what? In the summer months for kids, the pool is there. They have swimming. They have golf lessons. It's a real family place per se. It's not just about golf and playing golf. So, you know, if you get a chance, get out there and support them. I think you'll really love their food. The views are magnificent. And the course itself, it was well known. I mean, Tucson is sort of a big, small place, isn't it, Susan? And,
yes.
And it was known as a really, in fact, I think it was back in 68 or something. I may have the years wrong, but the principle is this. It was a PGA course, a recognized course. And the pros used to play here at the 49ers. And I think Jack Nicklaus played, and there was a hole, I don't know which one it was, but he took about 11 shots on it or something. It's famous. Well, it's had a lot of history since then, and it nearly died totally, the course. The owner skipped out of town and a few things, but unfortunately he sold the water wells. And no one was going to do anything about it, and they would have built housing on the fairways and so on, which was pretty sad. And this wonderful gentleman came from Colorado Springs, and he retired and so on. Anyway, he saw the place, and this is disgusting, and he thought he would do something to help Tucson, create jobs. He bought the premises. His water bills were astronomical that he took over, I can assure you. And he pays serious money, whereas we do know of public courses that get all free water. So there's quite a bit of debate there going on, and he actually pays for drinking water at full drinking water prices, but he doesn't get drinking water, he gets the other one. So it's very hard, but he's built this place back again, and 6 years now, and it's beautiful. And it's a full credit to him. Ron McKenzie is his name. It's full credit to him. So the 49ers Golf and Country Club Estate, proud sponsors of Tucson Means Business. And that's what you call meaning business, is doing something like that and going, spending a fortune to create jobs for a few, but put it back into the economy. You in the bank, young lady,
yes.
Do you get called out much from your office to settle disputes, or everything just beautiful at First Credit?
For the most part, it is beautiful, but we occasionally have our disputes. There's ongoing fraud. But
is there really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Give us an idea. Tell us what.
There's just so many different scams that, it's
outsiders are trying to do.
It's every day
right.
changing. So,
Right. So you must be kept aware all the time.
Yeah, there's, wire fraud, debit card fraud, identity theft, that sort of thing. But, we take pride in the fact that we like to educate our members on how to avoid that before it even happens.
Okay. As a not-for-profit financial cooperative, you're owned by your members, but they're not shareholders.
They're not.
Okay. How does that work? Basically, I should ask you, how does that compare to a normal operation? What's the difference, do you think?
So with banks, they're governed by stockholders. With credit unions, we're governed by a board of directors that are also members. They volunteer their time most of the time.
Right.
And so with that in mind,
So the board is volunteer too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the decisions that are made on behalf of the credit union, that's done with heart and intent for what's good for the membership as a whole, rather than stockholders.
All right. So how does it work when you invite a new member? Because you're as good as your number of members, correct?
That's correct.
Investing their monies into the union, the credit union,
yes.
which you in turn do things with that go back into the community. Now, I come along and do I get a good interest rate from you if I have a savings account with you?
Yeah, we offer some of the best rates.
Really?
Yeah.
You're very comparative to the banks?
Yeah, we're actually most of the time better than the banks.
Better than the banks.
Yeah.
What about young couples trying to get money for housing and their first home? And you know how tough it is.
Yeah, that's what's awesome. We're a full-service financial institution, so we do it all. Anything from a savings account to your first mortgage.
Yeah, is that a big part of your business? Housing and loans and
it is. It is. In fact, that's our primary focus currently with the low rates.
Interesting. You are local, but the first credit union was established in Arizona in 1929.
That's correct.
Well, that's way back, isn't it? Your headquarter location was based in Chandler and still is?
Yes, it is.
Okay, up there with the Northerners. But now a network of 8 branch locations in the state, and you offer a full suite of financial services from savings to investments to auto, credit card, and home loans. Share a little bit about those products. We've touched on home loans. Give me an idea of some of the other products.
So we offer savings account, checking accounts. We have starter checking accounts for children, starting at the age of 13, where we offer them debit cards so that we can teach them how to balance a checkbook. Mm-hmm. We offer retirement accounts, IRAs, individual retirement.
Okay, let me ask you a couple of questions. I don't want to put you on the spot. Kids with credit cards, is that a good thing? Or are you teaching them fiscal responsibility?
They don't have credit cards when they're children, but debit cards. And we're going to educate them on how they balance their checkbook. We offer online services so we can show them how to get logged on, how to, balance their checkbook as they're making their purchases.
Interesting. I thought, Catherine, the checkbooks were gone,
I almost am going back full circle to checks.
Are you really?
Because
Really?
every day the technology changes and credit card fraud is such a constant.
It's scary, isn't it?
It is. And all the fees that the credit unions
Expensive.
charge. It's a credit to and they encourage the consumer, but they don't support the vendor. So
Right.
I've only had one check bounce in all the years I've been in business that I couldn't reclaim, and
Right.
that was for $50. So
Well, I had a check bounce on me a couple of weeks back with a client. Needless to say, I won't mention that. But the credit union gave that particular person all their money back and even paid me the $12 it cost me because I got gypped by it. You know what I mean? So I thought that was very nice of that credit union.
yeah, that is. Does credit unions do merchant services, like for vendors?
There are some credit unions that offer that service, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But First doesn't?
We don't, unfortunately, at the moment.
Yeah, but you got to look at it. You're
We have
doing
business accounts, we just don't have the actual merchant service.
it? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. But that's probably going to happen, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's a piece of the market you would need, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
And members would need it, small business members who have got businesses would prefer to deal with you than someone else down the road.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're losing that business, aren't you? Yes, you have to look at it all up to the board, huh? I suppose you got to crunch all the numbers. How much how much extra staff does it take, and extra, all that sort of jazz comes into it, right?
Yeah.
I covered that. 1929. That's 90 years.
90 years. That's right.
God, you weren't even a twinkle. Neither was I, in respective eyes. A little bit about the history. Do they train you when you first joined the bank? Do they take you up there at all, or do you go through a film of the company?
Yeah, when you get hired on, you're told about the history of the credit union. So, like you said, we began in 1929. We were created by federal employees that gathered together during the Great Depression to offer low-cost financial services to their community.
Good. What other things set credit unions apart, do you think, from other financial institutions?
Our community connection, core to credit unions' philosophy, is that we have a strong connection with the communities that we serve. So through financial education and other outreach efforts, credit unions are consistently giving back.
Yeah, Susan, you go back. I mean, do you remember credit unions? Very.
Well, I do. As a kid, I started a bank account early. I remember that, and my CPA did recommend to use a credit union. So,
Really?
but I tried one, but they didn't have enough business
Right.
services that really met my needs, so I had to change.
We went from baking pies to horseshoeing,
Yep.
and then into theme restaurants all over the joint. But in 1987, you started a new life.
Yes, I did. I was back in
Moved back to Tucson.
St. Louis, and I was newly divorced, and it was cold, and I said, I'll get gas at lunch because it's so cold. I'll wait till the sun's out. And I ran out of gas and fell down the hill in the ice, and I said, okay, I'm going. My mom
I'm done. That's
I
it.
said, that was it. I mean, I literally went home and packed up and came to Tucson.
I feel for you because, number one, there's nothing worse than heartbreak. And regardless,
Yeah.
I don't know your story, but you were still divorced. You were still
Right.
getting divorced. And I don't care if you're human at all, it's going to affect you. But add to that when it's stinking cold the way it is and you fall down a hill.
I said,
That's it.
myself, I said, I can be poor and cold or I can be poor and warm. I'm going to choose poor and warm. But truthfully,
Answer.
when I got to Tucson, I mean, I've never been poor here. I've always done really
You've
well.
done really well. Your mom had a business, right? She was business-to-business sales, I think your mom was doing.
No, that was me.
Oh, that was you doing
My mom
that?
ran the local restaurant.
Oh, okay. She was
Yeah.
doing that.
But
There's
she
a
did-
restaurant
she-
again.
She did teach me my first lesson on profit, though.
Oh, okay.
I was making milkshakes, and everybody came, and we want Susie to make our milkshake. And my mom says, let me watch you make a milkshake.
I can see what's coming.
And I
here.
was like, making them like I liked them.
Yeah,
and she
right.
goes, we're losing money on those. And she said, it's 2 scoops, it's 1 level of the malt, and this much chocolate.
Yeah.
And back then, I think they were $1. And she said, now, don't you you're giving away money. And so then the people would come in and they'd say, well, I said, they want a milkshake. I said, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make those milkshakes anymore. And they said, why? And I go, well, because I was losing money on them. But I got a deal for you.
Well, it's
You can
amazing.
have a Hogan's milkshake, which was the name of a restaurant, or you can have a Susie milkshake. One's $1 and one's $2.
Which one would you like? Yeah.
And then I gave him a choice, and my mom said, "That's pretty good." I think I was probably 12. But
Love that.
Well, you're an amazing worker. You've come a long way. And, look, I could sit here all day and talk about things that if you've done. But you did do real estate sales.
Yeah.
You went into property management. Back to Michigan for a little while because you were offered a big job by Gannett, who owned a daily newspaper there. And that's how much they thought of you. You stuck it out as long as you could and said, to hell with it, I'm going back. You came back here to work for the Arizona Daily Star.
Yes, I did.
And then a thing called Saddlebag Notes.
yeah, that's a newspaper that the Arizona Daily Star owns and services the Saddlebrook community. And my last 2 years with them, I took over the management of that, had an office up in Catalina, and, was really managing the whole newspaper.
Yeah,
and,
come a long way.
a lot of my clients would say, hey, we got to buy in this magazine and that paper. Why don't you just start a paper that's just for Oro Valley
And be done with it.
and Saddlebrook? And I said, oh, yeah, that's easy. I'll just go out and start a paper. That's so easy to do.
Yeah,
And-
you learned.
I had started businesses before. It wasn't like I was, I know usually, I made really good money with the Arizona Daily Store, had great insurance, all that stuff. So I was saying,
Right.
I was 60. So I said, what am I doing? Why am I thinking of this? But I did it.
Unbelievable. Then you went on to open up after The Voice, an opportunity came up to do the Savvy Shopper, which used to be,
It used to be the Savvy Shopper was here, and
then you made it.
I love the Savvy Shopper.
a person that had worked for them for over 10 years, he called me up one day, and we knew each other because we had a lot of similar clients. And he said to me, would you consider publishing a coupon magazine because Savvy Shopper's leaving town? And they just give him his pink slip, and, it was a few months out. And I said, whoa, that's going to be really expensive, doing the paper.
Right.
When you do a glossy magazine, I said, these print and everything's by mail.
Right.
And we're going to do 120,000, I said, whoa, that's going to be like super expensive. I got to check it out. And I did. And I thought, okay, well, we had 100% conversion rate of all the Savvy Shopper clients. So it's like an instant business. And,
That's pretty good. And your others have been with you, 6 years now?
Yeah,
Huh?
6 years. And
You've been doing it? Well done.
Tucson Smart Shopper's
Well
been
done.
2 years. So
Good on you. And all done. See, who says a woman can't do it? Huh? How many good women are there in America who are chairing companies and breaking through the glass ceilings and running companies that men could never do in another way? By the way, Catherine, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Alrighty, we're going to out of time soon. See how quickly it goes when you're having fun? You could
it
sit
does.
here all day, couldn't you? Very unique profession. What's the most expensive thing you've appraised? What's the least expensive?
Oh, the least expensive. Usually I don't bother with anything that's under $100 because my time is billed by the hour and it can be expensive. But if it's got a lot of litigation or a little bit of personal anger, like in a divorce, I have appraised a toaster for $15. One time there was a really litigious one involving a stepchildren and an older uncle. And I had to find out about $2 of change, Canadian money, convert it to American dollars effective at the date of death. And it was still $2, but I had to do that because they wanted to document everything. Mm-hmm. So that was it. $2 Canadian is about $2 American because we don't do pennies.
There you go.
We don't do pennies.
You don't do pennies.
No.
There you go. So come on, don't tease me, mucking around with this little stuff. Surely you've done something in the millions.
Oh, yes. One of the most wonderful things that I appraised was an Alex Calder mobile. And Alex Calder was a kinetic artist. You can remember back to middle school when you had your geometry class and you made a little, mobile out of yarn balls and straw. And
Okay.
your mom would hang it up. Anyway, his went for $3.25 million.
Wow.
And
Dare I ask how you survive? You've got to make money and you're paying yourself.
Yes.
How do you live? You take a percentage, do you?
I do.
Agreed upon percentage?
When I do estate sales, we do a percentage. And I come in and we orderly liquidate the house and we sell everything from the Alex Calder mobiles down to the Pyrex pans and toasters.
But you leave the house to the realtors.
Yes,
Okay.
that's our slogan. We don't appraise the house, just everything in it, and we're not allowed to sell houses, but we sure help the realtors. They like us for that, and Yeah, then we also do appraisals to do that, and then sometimes I will privately broker things, take them on consignment, and help them go to people in New York and things along that line.
Fabulous. What an interesting business. What an interesting business. When I think about all the things in these shops that are around all over the world, antique shops, there's some beautiful, beautiful chess sets, lovely globes. They're the things that get my attention.
Oh,
you know?
yes. I meet nice people, too, every day.
Yeah, I guess you would.
It's
You
fun.
know, anyway, again, happy birthday for today.
Thank
21's a nice year, you know. It really is. Suzanne, how often should people come to Fuchsia? I mean, is there a health safeguard or is there anything like that to prevent one going too much to a spa?
I don't think so.
No?
Not for me. Most people want to get a massage once a month because they work in an office or behind a computer or doing heavy lifting or whatever. It's really good for your muscles to come in and just relax and have those muscles massaged. And we have an infrared sauna. You can come every day, once a week, and those are really popular. And they're getting more and more attention from a health perspective to just bake out toxins and make your muscles feel better. And as far as skincare goes, I would recommend once a month. You have to do that obviously for a facial, and then your nails just depends on how often and how much you use your hands or your toes. We take care of those as well.
The pedicures and so
Yeah.
on. Yeah, it's a luxury, isn't it? I mean, it's a nice little thing. To pamper one's body, to respect one's, the carrier of the spirit.
Right, and there's a lot of nail places in town. Every corner shopping center has one. Ours is way different. In fact, we're really about cleanliness and healthcare. We don't use the jets. A lot of people like them. They're jets, their feet to put in the jets, and those can create a lot of infections and so forth. So we have stainless steel tubs that are just
So that's all cleaned out there all the time as well.
We
and
don't do acrylics or the dipping powder because it creates a lot of drilling and smells.
Very
and
good.
like that. So we just use the gel polish and the regular polish, and I think people leave very happy. And
Well, there we are then, folks. We can go 40 times a day to Fuchsia. It doesn't matter. It's
At least
totally
once
all
a
right.
month, come see me. Yeah.
In closing, Susan, is being a woman an advantage in business?
I don't really think too much in terms of a man and a woman.
Gender, yeah.
I really don't. I mean, it's just a personal thing, but I think it depends on what business you're in if it's an advantage. I mean, Suzanne's is probably an advantage for a woman because it's a primarily woman audience. But if you were in a primarily, where it's always been men, I think it's tougher. I mean, I know women in commercial real estate, that it's a tough world there for them because it's primarily men. And probably in the credit unions and you see a lot of women tellers, but all the people run them are men. So I just think it's what business you're in, but I don't really see an advantage because I don't think in terms that way.
No, and I don't either. It's not the reason I asked the question. Everybody knows everybody's pushing for the same dough. No such thing as gender in business. You still work as hard, the same hours, the same everything.
Yeah.
But women are paid far less. And it's not fair.
Yeah.
So the reality is, if you're that good, you should be getting paid the same. Right? But what are the downsides for a woman? I mean, you were married, you were raising children. How do you do all you've done and succeed at everything that you did with raising children at the same time?
I don't know. I don't know how men make it because women take care of the kids and the business. But, I don't really know because I was fortunate, when my kids were small, my husband was very hands-on with the kids.
Okay.
And but I don't know how you do it. I mean, if you sat around and thought about it, you'd freak out because
Right.
it doesn't
One
seem
day at a
possible.
time.
Yeah.
Well, it's amazing. So how do you find then a balance between all this responsibility that you have now, what's the Australian publisher's name? I should know it, shouldn't I? Murdoch. You being a Murdoch and all, how do you get on now? How do you enjoy oneself?
I would say that is my biggest battle and my biggest fight I have to fight to stay balanced because I can become a workaholic very easily.
Right.
And I've noticed some of the things that I have on my bucket list, are just like in the bucket. And I'm just making things now to make that happen. But if you don't, you have to use your same things you used to start that business to keep that balance.
Right.
And that's what you have to do. And if you don't do it, you'll burn out.
It's amazing. You look 21 too, and look what you've achieved and done. These women, I tell you what, I got to find some secrets out that they're doing. Michelle, for you, what are some important topics? I know the first credit, the Youths Initiative.
Yes.
What's that all about, the youth initiative?
So education is a foundation for our youth members' future. We do several things to support that. We have a wealth of free financial education that's provided online. Relationships with local schools. We have an amazing program that we started called Great Grades, where we actually reward students between, grades K through 12 for their good grades. So.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're getting early in the game. All right. And the only last thing I really wanted to ask you was, you do have a special tagline and a message for your members.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's financial sunshine. So,
Financial sunshine.
yeah.
You have a website. I'm not going to go through all your other stuff because each of you, of course, will be on the Tucson Business Radio X site permanently. You'll be published up there with your photographs and your histories and bios and God knows what. Anybody can contact you with the phone numbers and also all of your social media links and so on there, which is great. But you do have a site, and that is firstcu.net.
Correct.
Okay, www.firstcu.net. And I'm referring to Michelle Munhay.
Manhe, yes.
Munhay.
Yeah.
Munhay. When I first looked at it, you would think it too. I thought it was Mange. Michelle Mange. Mange. And I thought, hang on a minute, it's not German, it's not French, it's not. Then I said, Mange? She said, no, Munhay. And I thought, oh, okay. One thing I love about this career over 40 years is the names and the people that you meet. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time that you spent with us today. And you're a credit, such a young age, you're a credit to what you've achieved. You've shown me that women in business or listening who are young ladies, if you focus on a goal, you can achieve it. And that's what it's all about. Susan Penny, you've got to get back and start running those papers. But you do shut down, I think, 2 months a year, don't you?
We produce the Tucson Smart Shopper 10 times a year. We don't do January and we don't do July. But the Oro Valley Voice is 12 months a year.
That's 12 months a year. The regulars, I think you tried to stop it, I think, for 1 month, and they went nuts, didn't they?
Yeah, our clientele up there, most people that really engage in the newspaper are at least 45 and above. And so a lot of those people don't have much to do. So if there's a misspelled word or anything's wrong, believe me. But you know what's really unique is they take time to write me a letter.
How about that?
And that's how I know what their age is, because they can still write cursive. But
no, well, they're the ones that thought the what's it called, computer invented by the devil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they still want to handwrite.
But anybody that takes the time, even if it's a critique, I send them movie tickets.
That's nice.
Because I just think that's really old-fashioned, and I wish more people took time. But it tells me they take ownership of the paper in the community, so it's a good thing.
It's a lovely thing. Thank you. I appreciate that. You two on the site, Susan Penny of the Oro Valley Voice. And, of course, now it's not the Savvy Shopper anymore.
No.
It's the Tucson.
Yeah. And we have nothing to do with the Savvy Shopper. We completely started our own.
Yeah, it's a revamped
things.
Absolute thingo. But it's marvelous, and it's well done. Catherine Barron, leading estate. Again, happy birthday. Are you doing anything special?
I'm going to have dinner with some friends tonight.
Isn't
Actually,
that
today,
nice?
right now. This is
now?
special.
That's very nice. That's good. I appreciate your time coming in. I wish you well with your business, and hopefully, we'll revisit another time, all right?
I would like that.
Well, thank you, Catherine and young Suzanne. Fuchsia Spa. Ladies and gentlemen, up there at La Encantada.
I love the way you say that.
Yeah.
You should make everybody want to come.
Remember when I did the ads for
Yeah, I
you
did. It
for
was great. It was
radio?
fun.
Yeah, people like those, didn't they?
Yeah.
And it's very, very nice. Get a chance, get up there. It's affordable. Don't tell him. Just take some of the shopping money and go. Have a nice little treat for yourself up there. And Suzanne will meet you and look after you. And if you heard it on the show, you tell her that. But that's Fuchsia Spa at La Encantada. It's up there at East Skyline Drive. Susan McNamara is the owner and chief cook and bottle washer for that one. And I thank you for taking time out
Thank you,
and
Mark.
coming on Tucson Means Business, proudly sponsored by the 49ers Golf and Country Club. And thank you, listeners. Joy being with you. We'll be back for episode 16 shortly of Tucson Means Business.